Today we are going to be exploring the making of the Oscar-nominated Brazilian film, I'm Still Here. And what's so interesting is we're not just going to be focusing on the plot. We're going to be really uncovering the unique ways the filmmakers brought this really difficult historical period to life and evoked such powerful emotions from viewers. We've got some great insights from interviews with the director Walter Salles and the lead actress Fernanda Torres, so let's dive in.
You know what really struck me was how Salles uses his own childhood home as the main setting for the film, and it almost becomes a character in itself.
Yeah.
You know, a symbol of the family's life before the dictatorship.
That really resonated with me too, and I'm curious, for you, have you ever felt that kind of strong connection to a place where the very walls hold memories and emotions?
Absolutely.
It's like, in this case, the house becomes like this tangible representation of what is lost during this turbulent time.
Absolutely, and it's interesting when you compare this choice to Salles' other works, like Central Station or the Motorcycle Diaries. These are films about journeys, about physical movement, but in I'm Still Here, by keeping the action so centered in the home, Salles creates this feeling of an internal journey for Eunice.
It really intensifies that feeling of confinement, wouldn't you say?
Exactly.
As the political situation deteriorates outside.
Yeah, and that sense of confinement is further amplified by the director's decision to shoot the film chronologically. It's a rare approach, but it allowed the actors to truly embody the emotional arc of their characters as the story unfolds.
That is so fascinating how such a technical decision can have such a profound impact on the performance. Torres even mentioned feeling a genuine sense of loss when her on-screen husband, played by selton mello, disappeared from the set.
Wow.
She was literally experiencing the character's grief in real time.
Yeah.
I can only imagine how that translates on screen.
It definitely adds to the raw authenticity of the film, and that chronological approach, particularly during the prison interrogation scenes, brought up genuine fear for Torres.
Wow, now that's powerful because the Brazilian dictatorship was a period of intense fear and repression.
Oh, yeah.
You can't just act that.
Right, and Torres herself said she was afraid of the police as a child.
Right.
So to relive those emotions on set under those conditions must have been incredibly intense for her.
It makes you think about the power of art, doesn't it?
Yeah.
How by immersing ourselves in a story, even a fictional one, we can gain a deeper understanding of historical events and their impact on people's lives.
Absolutely. And what's so striking about I'm Still Here is that while it doesn't shy away from the darkness of the dictatorship, it also highlights moments of joy and normalcy in the family's life before the tragedy.
Yeah, I was going to say, the film doesn't solely dwell on the bleakness of it all. It makes those moments of happiness all the more poignant because we know what's coming. Did Torres talk about that at all, that contrast?
She did. She talked about how Eunice, her character, tried to shield her children from the full weight of what was happening, allowing them to experience some degree of normalcy and joy, even amidst the chaos.
That's so powerful. It speaks to the resilience of the human spirit.
Yeah.
The need to find those glimmers of hope even in the darkest of times.
Yeah, and that idea of resilience is reflected in the film's structure itself. It doesn't end in despair.
Right.
But rather with a celebration of the family's enduring spirit and their love for life. It's a subtle but powerful message of hope.
That's so true. It would have been easy to end on a bleak note, but instead they choose to emphasize the strength and perseverance of the human spirit.
Yeah.
It's interesting, though, because when we think about films about dictatorships, we often expect to see those kind of clear-cut heroes and villains.
Yeah.
But Torres mentioned something about the portrayal of the dictatorship figures in I'm Still Here that really struck me.
Oh, are you referring to her comment about how the film avoids simplistic stereotypes?
Exactly.
Yeah.
She specifically praised the actor who played the interrogator, saying his performance was so intelligent and nuanced that it actually made her feel genuinely afraid.
It's a really important point, because it challenges those typical representations of evil we often see in films about these subjects.
Right.
It forces us to confront the complexities of the situation.
Yeah.
After all, even within a brutal regime, there are individuals with varying levels of morality and complicity.
I wonder if that makes the film even more unsettling for viewers. When you're presented with the more human, less caricatured villain, it becomes harder to distance yourself from the situation.
Absolutely, and it forces you to consider the nuances of human behavior under those extreme circumstances.
Yeah.
And it reminds us that things are rarely black and white, especially when dealing with such a complex historical period.
This reminds me of something else Torres mentioned. She said that the filmmakers intentionally incorporated music from the Tropicalia movement into the soundtrack. Now, for those who might not be familiar, Tropicalia emerged in Brazil during the 60s and 70s as this really vibrant experimental art form that blended traditional Brazilian music with elements of pop rock, even psychedelia.
Right. It was considered quite rebellious at the time, pushing boundaries and challenging the conservative cultural climate.
Right.
Some even saw it as a form of artistic resistance against the dictatorship.
So by including Tropicalia in the film, Salles isn't just adding a cool soundtrack.
No.
He's weaving in another layer of historical and cultural significance, subtly highlighting this spirit of defiance that existed even in the face of oppression.
It's a clever way to connect the personal and political aspects of this story, using music as a bridge between the character's inner world and the broader historical context.
And speaking of interesting musical choices,
Yeah.
I was so surprised to learn that the score was composed by Warren Ellis, the Australian musician known for his work with Nick Cave. Not exactly who you'd expect to find scoring a Brazilian film about a dictatorship.
It is an unexpected choice, but it actually works brilliantly.
Yeah.
I mean, think about the themes Ellis often explores in his music with Cave.
Ugh.
Grief, loss, redemption.
Yeah.
Those themes resonate so deeply with the emotional core of I'm still here.
So you have this fascinating blend of Brazilian and international musical influences, creating this really unique soundscape that reflects both the specific cultural context and the universal themes of the film.
Precisely, and this idea of blending seemingly disparate elements is present throughout the film.
Yeah.
Remember how Salles talked about subtraction as a key principle in his filmmaking?
Yeah, he talked about stripping away anything unnecessary, focusing on the essence of the story and characters.
Right.
I'm curious, though, how did that translate visually? Did Torres mention anything about how that approach impacted her performance?
She did. She said that Sal encouraged her to find this delicate balance to convey a lot with very little, to let the silence and subtle gestures speak volumes.
That's so interesting. It sounds like they were aiming for this kind of understated realism, allowing the audience to fill in the gaps with their own emotions and interpretations.
Exactly. It's a testament to the power of collaboration between a director and an actor who are truly in sync.
Yeah.
They trusted each other, they listened to each other, and they created something truly special together.
It reminds us that filmmaking is, at its heart, a collaborative art form.
Yeah.
It's not just about one person's vision, but about the synergy between the director, the actors, the cinematographer, the editor, and everyone involved.
Yeah.
And when that collaboration is successful, you get a film like I'm Still Here, a film that lingers in your mind long after the credits roll.
Yeah.
Speaking of the credits, can we talk about that final scene with the empty house?
Oh, yeah.
It was so hauntingly beautiful, and it seemed to tie back to that idea of subtraction that Salles mentioned.
You're absolutely right. The family is gone, their presence removed.
Yeah.
But you can still feel the weight of their story lingering in that space.
It's like the house itself becomes this physical manifestation of memory, of that place that holds the imprint of what once was, even as life moves on.
And the choice to use Erasmo Carlos' song É Preciso Dar Jeito Meu Amigo at that moment adds another layer of meaning, which translates to We Have to Find a Way, My Friend, a song about finding the strength to rebuild after loss.
It's like the perfect encapsulation of the film's message of resilience.
Yeah.
Even in the face of profound loss, life goes on, and there's beauty to be found in that continuity.
And it speaks to the enduring power of hope, even amidst tragedy. That's what makes I'm Still Here such a profoundly moving film.
Yeah.
It acknowledges the darkness, the pain, the injustice, but it also celebrates the indomitable spirit of those who lived through it. It reminds us that there's always a reason to keep going, to find a way forward, even when everything seems lost.
Before we wrap up this part of our deep dive, I want to touch on something Torres' mother, the incredible Fernanda Montenegro, said about tragedy.
Yeah.
She said, "You cannot play Hecuba like you would a normal melodrama because tragedy is not a degree of existence."
That's a profound statement. It suggests that tragedy is not just a heightened emotional state, but rather a fundamental aspect of the human experience.
And I think that's what Torres captures so brilliantly in her performance as Eunice. She carries this immense weight of sorrow, but she never succumbs to self-pity. She finds the strength to move forward, to fight for justice, and to protect her children. It's a truly remarkable performance, and it speaks to that enduring human capacity for resilience in the face of unimaginable loss.
It's incredible how I'm Still Here just kind of weaves together so many different threads,
Yeah.
The personal, the political, the artistic, the historical, creating this tapestry that's both deeply moving and intellectually stimulating.
It's not just a history lesson, right?
Yeah.
It's an invitation to connect with history on a more visceral level, to understand it, not just as a series of facts and dates, but as a lived experience that continues to shape our present.
Exactly. And by focusing on the emotional journey of this one family, the film avoids the trap of becoming a dry, detached account of the past.
Right.
Instead, it draws you and makes you feel the weight of history and prompts you to reflect on its implications for our own lives.
You know, that idea of using the house as a central character, as this repository of memory and emotion, has really stuck with me. It's such a powerful visual metaphor.
It is, and I think it resonates so strongly because we all have those places, don't we?
Yeah.
Those spaces that hold special meaning for us, that evoke memories both joyful and painful, and remind us of who we are and where we come from.
This has been such a fascinating deep dive. But before we wrap up, I want to bring it back to you, the listener. Why should you care about a film set in Brazil during a period of political turmoil? What makes this story relevant to your life?
Well, because ultimately, I Am Still Here isn't just about Brazil. It's about the human condition.
Right.
It's about the universal struggle for freedom, for justice, for the right to live a life free from fear and oppression. It's about finding those glimmers of hope in the darkest of times, about the resilience of the human spirit, and about the power of love to endure even the most unimaginable loss.
It's a reminder that these struggles transcend borders and time periods.
Yeah.
They speak to something fundamental about what it means to be human, to navigate the complexities of life, and to find the strength to persevere, even when faced with immense challenges.
And it highlights the importance of memory, of keeping these stories alive so that we can learn from the past and strive to create a better future.
I'm Still Here is a film that will stay with you long after the credits roll. It will make you think, it will make you feel, and it will leave you with a profound sense of hope for humanity.
If you haven't seen it yet, I highly encourage you to check it out. And after you've seen it, take some time to reflect on the themes we've discussed today. How can art help us process difficult historical events? How can we find hope in the face of adversity? And what does it mean to be truly resilient in the face of unimaginable loss?
These are questions worth pondering, and I'm Still Here provides a really powerful starting point for those reflections. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep learning.